Ladies and gentlemen, we have the privilege of talking to someone today whom I keep in the same league as Sam Pitroda. After all, he worked from the word go at CDOT, the Center for Development of Telematics, whose founder was Sam Pitroda. Our present interlocutor was instrumental in sowing the seeds of the telecom revolution in the country. And though he became a president, COO, and CEO of companies later, I know intuitively as a fellow Bitsian that he has always been a telecommunications engineer at heart. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us today Manoranjan Mohapatra, affectionately known as Mao to everyone who matters. Mao, both of us went to BITS Pilani to study, except that when you joined the college, I began with my kindergarten. Tell us how many marks did you obtain in your class 12th to manage to study the coveted electrical and electronics at BITS Pilani? And while you're at it, do tell us something about your college days, including how you ragged Adesh Goel.
A lot of questions. Thank you, Prashant, for giving me an opportunity to talk to me. I know I've seen some of the earlier recordings, and these are highly, acclaimed individuals, and the way you have conducted, it's amazing. I mean, one gets a feeling that you've gone through some formal training on how to conduct interviews and all that. I really appreciate and appreciate that capability or competency of yours. Uh, the way you probe is without letting the individual know that you're probing. You probe it really well. As they say it in Hindi, "Zor ka jhatka dheere se de." Now, coming back to the question, yes, I did go to BITS Pilani, and I was very keen. I was a science student. I was not very good at literature and other courses. And when I went to BITS, I got a jolt of my life. Um, I studied in Orissa in the Board of Secondary Education Orissa in Oriya medium. So 12 years of vernacular medium, and then you go there and you are shocked out of your life in the first orientation. I remember there was a Professor Barker in the Ford Foundation Exchange program who had come to BITS, who was talking to us in the orientation program. And I swear in the entire 30 odd minutes of his address, I could only count 3 or 4 words that I could pick up from his accent. And I asked myself that, am I at the right place? And all of us who landed up in these successful institutions have done well in our academics and are very competitive, but it did put in a fear on day two in my mind. But nevertheless, coming back, I struggled in the beginning more so for the language. I remember there was a question that said, join A and B and produce it to C in the first semester. And all my life, I had read it as extend it to C. I did not even understand. And I came back and asked as if it is something very technical to my friends, and what does this mean? And then I realized how stupid I am. So my secondary board exam, I did reasonably well. I was in the top 10. I was the 8th rank holder in the state. And my time, it was admission on a marks basis. So I did make it to Triple E by choice, electrical electronics engineering. I did some other stupidity, which I didn't know. Our time, they make you write a test in the first week of joining to assess your level of English. And that determines where you start. There are 6 or 7 courses in English. They make you do only 3. But you can start from make-up English and then go up all the way up to prose poetry fiction. Everybody else by design screw up that test so that they start low and it is easy to get a grade. I had no clue. I prepared very hard and got little above average. I started from prose and did poetry and fiction, three of the most difficult English courses. Just to tell you how naive an individual can be. And then bits I started with a lot of struggle. But I think by the time I reached it's a 5-year course, by second semester of second year, or maybe first semester of third year, I had learned the tricks of all the trade and had become reasonably confident in uh, most of the courses. Just to let you know that I'm one of those rare breeds. I had either A's or C's. I got very few B's. In the entire 10 semesters, about 60 courses, I think I got 4 B's. So either I liked a course or I didn't like a course. Okay.
And how did you rag Adesh? You want to hear stories about that?
There was not much of ragging you would know in BITS Pilani. But there was ragging of different kind, and I called Adesh, and he was obviously 6 inches taller than me, and I had to look up to him literally. So I asked him. I think it was uh, August. I mean, immediately after the semester started, the first semester of his year, and I asked him to switch on the fan, and because it was a little warm, and he uh, switched it on, and the fan was a little slow. So I asked him, "Do you know how does the fan work?" Um, that is how I started ragging him, because there's nothing physical about it. You can only now some people ask you to clean your room and mop your room and all that, and I was not one of those. My questioning was more to know the guy and let him know that I'm around for him in terms of whatever help he needs. So it was more about how does a tube light work, how does a fan work, what happens in a pressure cooker, those kind of questions.
Okay, great. So after your studies, you joined CDOT, the Center for Development of Telematics, in 1984. Now, this was the same year when Indira Gandhi invited Sam Pitroda back from US to start CDOT. So, how were you selected there, and what was it like working in the country's premier R&D organization right from the day one? And does Sam Pitroda know you personally?
That's an interesting process. My campus job I had got was HCL. And I, joined for maybe 7 days and quit. Because I was given there was Spectrum 7 series of computers that HCL has come out with. There was a thick manual of few hundred pages. I was given to read it on the day of joining. And for 7 days, nobody showed up. I didn't know. I had questions. And this is not HCL. I think this happens in every organizations. The new joinees are typically not taken care of or cared for. And that's the time, obviously, after 5 years in Pilani and all that, you were a little homesick. I had gone home and for some family function or whatever. And my father told me, who was in the state government, that the Orissa state government has come up with a new organization in the state government public sector called Orissa State Electronics Development Corporation. They're looking for some young, bright freshers. Why don't you go and meet, some gentlemen? And then he said, we can't go to the campus, we can't do this, but let me do one thing. He took my details, wrote to the placement officer in BITS Pilani that we are thinking of hiring this guy. What do you think of his academics and things like that? So they got a response saying he's good, but as per our campus policies, already has one campus job. So we would not recommend officially, but otherwise, on academics and qualification, there is nothing of any concern to us. So that is how I joined for a few months, and I realized I was rotting there. I saw this ad in a national paper saying Center for Development of Telematics, and it was written very well, saying it's a revolution. We are trying to do indigenization of telecom in India. So I picked up the phone and talked to somebody because it very clearly said that you'll qualify through a ABCD process, including a medical checkup. I was concerned a little bit about my eyesight not being 6 by 6 even after classes. So I spoke to the HR head at that point of time, and it was not Adesh. Um, so the gentleman said, "You can read and write, right?" I said, "Yeah, of course I can read and write." He said, "Then you qualify." And that is how I joined. But it was an amazing, um, I mean, if I said dream come true or dreamy place, it will still be understatement. All people like pretty much fresh with some seniors guiding, mentoring, lot of classes, lot of learning at a asymptotic curve. But the ownership was way too much. So much so that you manage your life, you do it. We were converting Akbar Hotel into a uh, office space. So every room we had 4 people operating or sitting or whatever it is. So it was amazing. And coming back to the question, do I know Sam well? Of course, we were very small team. Everybody knew Sam personally. But during the phase where there was a political vendetta and some CAG audits and things like that, some of us were actively supporting Sam and fighting that battle from the front. So he still continues to be, at a personal level, known. I've been to his house in Chicago. I've stayed with him. And not every time, but once in a while he is here in India, we meet.
Excellent. Uh, so, after working for 8 years and more at CDOT, you decided to join Hughes Software Systems, HSS. What made you turn your back to CDOT? Was it the politics of the government organization, as you alluded to, or was it a fat paycheck from HSS, or perhaps both?
Multiple reasons, including the ones that you said. But you know how you are happy, satisfied, and you're not looking out till there is a push factor from within the organization. So this vendetta or vindication that was going on from a government point of view, because there was a change of government in the center, Pitoda seemed to be too much aligned to Rajiv Gandhi and the Congress. It went against him. And the responsibility I was carrying at that point of time, I was the product manager for one of the products called RSU, Remote Switching Unit. And we had a trial going on in a small place in Kerala called Pattanam Thitta. And it was nearing end. So it was a little bit of everything. And then this opportunity came where I think Vinod went for an interview at Hughes, and he must have referred. So I got a call from PwC was coordinating the senior recruitment at that point of time. Call from a lady from PwC saying that, we would like to consider you for something. Would you be available? And I didn't know that Vinod had gone through and Adesh was going through the process at that point of time. This was February, March 1984. Sorry, 1992. And then I did get an offer, but something very interesting happened at that point of time. By then, I knew that Vinod has got an offer and put in his papers. Adesh has got an offer and put in his papers. So now I went to my boss and told him that I want to move on. He gave me a hearty smile. By the way, he lives in Gurgaon. I met him 2 days back. Um, so he said, where are you going? I said, I was very transparent with him. I said, where are we going? I gave him all that. He says, okay, I'll come back to you. He went to Hughes' office, the organization I was going to, that was in Nehru Place that time. He met the then president of Hughes in India, Anil Sharma. He said, you're taking three of our best guys. I have not stopped the first two, nor do I want to come on their way. But I can't let Mao go at this point in time. He's in the middle of a very critical activity. So I got an offer in end Feb, and I was allowed to join on 7th of July. But I was very respectful and I didn't want to burn any bridges. In fact, I had very good personal relationships. And that is how the selection process and joining happened to Hughes.
Excellent. And then at HSS, you were heading the DCN, the Digital Cellular Networks Division. Vinod was heading the SND, the Satellites Networking Division, and Amitava Roy was heading the ENS, the Enterprise Networking Systems. Now, how was the competition between the three of you, the stalwarts? And did you ever get a feeling that Vinod Sood in the Satellites Networking Division was getting all the attention with Hughes Network Systems, even though you were the cellular genius? And how do you call your relationship? How do you recall your relationship with Amitava Roy?
I think, somewhere there is a misunderstanding that competition means unhealthy relationship. Um, I have so many people that I've worked with in my life that I'm, in different aspects compete, but with healthiest of relationships. An example I'll give you that me and Adesh used to fight like cat and dog in the boardroom in HSS. And then at the end of the meeting, Adesh will come and put his hand around my shoulder and says, Chal kuch acha khana khila. So a lot of others will like Mohanranjan and Pratyush Thaskar, there's another word will come and say, "Ki, how do you do this? I mean, you just fought as if you're not going to talk to each other for ages. And it has the moment you stepped out of the boardroom, it has not impacted." I said, that's because we have a relationship. We are fighting on an issue. We are not fighting an individual. And it kind of worked well. So coming back to the question, Amitava was on the enterprise division. There was very little interaction on a day-to-day basis with Amit. Vinod, obviously, given the personal relationship, used to closely work. Vinod was always the darling of the employees. Everybody respected him, everybody loved him, and he had tons of empathy for the employees. But DCN was no less in terms of its importance because it was the upcoming business unit for Hughes Network Systems. There was a lot of focus, investment, trial, all that happening, and some very interesting work, customers in Indonesia, customers in Mobile, Alabama. And all of us were very heavily involved in that process. So I think if there was a competition, it was about why are people liking Vinod so much and they're not liking me as much. But it was not about the position and the respect and what you got from Hughes Network Systems or the board. It was never there.
Excellent. I think that was a candid admission. Indeed, Vinod was popular, but I must tell you that you were no less at any point of time with you getting popular awards. So, in HSS, you had a spectacular run. You saw the dot-com bust and the boom. You saw HSS going to markets with the first book-built IPO. You saw HSS ownership changes. You walked barefoot on the floors of HSS and you reached the position of president and COO. Please walk us through your spectacular journey at HSS and some of the unheard and untold stories from there, which only you are aware of.
See, all of us talk about, get out of your comfort zone, take risk and all that. If I look back and see what has helped me move, it is my ability to take risk. Whether I, obviously I was enjoying the risk, and that inner confidence that if it doesn't work out, I'll do something else was always there. I'll give you one example that I'll tell you. Um, Obviously, the demand supply gap that existed in terms of the amount of work HNS wanted to outsource to India and what HSS could do, the first 5, 6 years, we could easily lick it. Then our growth was very tightly coupled, a link to growth at HNS. And in one of the meetings, Anil and Ramani was our VP engineering at that point of time. In fact, me, Vinod, all of us were reporting to Ramani, so he was like a COO. We kind of were told that, hey, if you have to grow this organization, we'll have to start doing work for others and not stay as a back office for Hughes Network Systems forever in life. And Anil said, I want somebody from within the organization and a leadership to walk up to me and tell me that I want to take that risk and, try get HSS into non-Hughes business. I thought about it. I said, yeah, I want to do it. I want to do something different and in the process help HSS significantly. After a couple of days, I went to Anil. I said, Anil, I want to talk to you. And I told him that, hey, the heady feeling of leading a 500-member team in DCN and growing, that was the fastest growing business because satellite business was reasonably stable, much bigger, but much stabler. I said, if after 6 months you say, hey, Mao, this is not working, we have decided not to do non-Hughes, we are shutting that initiative down, what will you do? I said, will you take me back as head of DCN again? He said, no way. We would have moved on, brought in somebody to do that job. And if something significant exists at that point of time in Hughes, we'll give it to you. Otherwise, you have to go out and look for something else. It was a very disturbing 24 hours to think that I'm letting go a team of 500 people that was, in my circle of influence. In the society also, if you meet somebody, you say, what are you? I'm an IT manager or a software development manager in Hughes. By default, those days, even today, to a large extent, the first question is, how large is the team? So then I went back and said, to heck with it, I'll take the risk. And I was the lone warrior, and gradually I had 2, 3, 4 people. We started that process. Initial days were not easy. In fact, it was tough, but we got a lot of support from Hughes management.
What do you think was the reason for the HSS growth rate stagnating after the first 8 years of spectacular growth? Was it because HSS stubbornly stuck to its guns, doing work only in the communications software and refusing to work in the banking financial services and the insurance BFSI? Or was it something else? Thus, missing out on a huge opportunity in digital space. And if you could rewind the time, what would you have done differently at HSS?
You're absolutely right. I think what really happened is the telecom domain was going through challenges. If I were to explain in quick 2 lines, so there are only 7 or 8 large telecom vendors in the world catering to 6.5, 7 billion people globally. The Ciscos, the Lucents, the Motorola's, the Nortels, the Ericssons, and the Nokias. The Chinese vendors had not even come on the horizon. But they could not, 8 or 9 players could not even survive with the entire market being theirs. You know what happened to Nortel, what happened to Lucent, what happened to Motorola, what happened to Alcatel. So that's a sign of if you are serving a segment, there are only 2 mantras that you need to follow in your business that I've learned, much later in life is the TAM, the total addressable market, how large it is. Of course, the telecom addressable market is large. The second one, which is even more important, is CAGR. how fast it is growing, the compounded annual growth rate. Now, if you want to grow in a stagnant market, you should have an ability to snatch others' market share. In a growing market, you are taking market share of the incremental growth market, which is relatively, nothing is easy, but relatively easy. But snatching existing market share from vendors who are already serving, nobody wants to give it easy. And what really hampered HSS prospects, in addition to being in a market which was not growing, the CAGR was flat, was a little bit of Darwin's theory. We spent a lot of initial years doing work for Hughes Network Systems. So we developed our engineering, delivery, technology skills and sharpened those saws rather well. But our sales, marketing, customer acquisition skills were zilch. It was not even a culture part of the organization. So when we started looking outside, it was like building a new organization, new culture altogether, where we have sales savviness and things like that. And you don't build culture in a year or two. It's not an annual operating plan issue. It takes time. But your point of not getting into other verticals is very valid. All of us realize that being in the equipment manufacturing space is very dicey. We wanted to get into telecom service providers. Just to let you know, today, I think we have more than 500 telecom operators globally, not counting the new age service providers. Like Netflix is a service provider, but I'm not counting them. I'm purely telecom voice and data service providers I'm talking about. And whereas telecom equipment vendors only there are 8 or 10. We did an acquisition, and I'm not naming anything at this point of time in this call because I don't know what NDA conditions, which most NDAs have a perpetuity in terms of its tenure. So we acquired a company keeping in mind that we want to expand into telecom service providers. We made offer to a couple of other companies who are in this space, BSS, OSS kind of space. But we were very slow.
So now you said you were the lone warrior, you took the risk, and in spite of your expertise and vision, and please forgive me for asking this, isn't it the brutal truth that you became the LK Advani of HSS, which is to say that you got everything at HSS stroke Flextronics, but never got to be the CEO? Everybody thought that you should be made the CEO when the president and CEO Arun Kumar passed away. Tell us frankly, if you wanted to be the CEO of HSS stroke Flextronics software, and were you heartbroken when they wouldn't make you one? And that's why you left HSS Flextronics software in 2007.
Absolutely not heartbroken. I have never ever gone and asked for anything in my life to anybody. And whatever is given to me, I've done it happily with both my hands open. Just to let you know, once me and Arun Kumar had a very healthy debate. We used to have very healthy fights on, oh, you're not letting others do, you're dominating everywhere, and people are not able to, the level 2, level 3s are not coming up. You should back off and let people face these customers. I said, Arun, maybe you're right. But people have to take the initiatives to come up, and not by me backing off, they will come up. I said, just if I am extremely keen on meeting customers, you make me the janitor of the first floor, plot 31. I'll find something for 5 minutes presentation on health and hygiene of the facility and present it to a customer when he comes. Because I love it. Where is that passion? Why is it missing? So coming back to this question, I never went at that point of time to anybody and said that I want to be. I was happy. My hands were full. I knew growth is what, is driving me. Secondly, one thing I knew that irrespective of what role I'm given, if I'm doing my role well and making an impact to the life of most of the employees, I would really be happy doing it. And that's why being a COO and the president of an organization which was, when I left, it was about $370 million revenue, is not an easy job. We were expanding geographies, territories, and it was an extreme stretch at that point of time to set up an organization, bring in a culture. I myself was learning. Mind you, I was not a sales marketing business development guy from birth. I learned it on the job. So I was not crestfallen or heartbroken, nor did I have any high expectations of me being that one. Um, Plus, there were factors of, when the management changed from Hughes to Flextronics, the question that had started coming up in my mind was, is this the organization that I want to long-term work with, the kind of bosses that I have to work with? Because we were spoiled by, Anil and Pradman and, other people from there, Jim Lucchesi and whosoever else we were working with from Hughes Network Systems.
I must really apologize on persisting on this, but everybody got a feeling that your exit from HSS stroke Flextronics was rather sudden and unceremonious, and you deserved nothing less than a standing ovation when you left. Painful as it might be, would you like to walk us through the details of how it happened as you took the proverbial last step through the gates of HSS and Flextronics? What were your feelings?
Um, it is. There are unfortunately things that I'll not be able to pinpoint and share because it's not fair to name people, but I was asked to do things which were unethical. I started questioning cost. So let me give an example. Um, Rajiv Sioni was our head of IT. He was either meant to go or he was pushed back to the background so much that he got frustrated and left. And a head of IT was hired in the US. I challenged the Flextronics people, managers who were responsible for running. Why are you letting somebody who's at whatever 30, 40 lakh salary go and hiring somebody for $350,000 in US? And the entire operation is here in India. The IT operations, 80% is here. So I was told that, I don't take instructions from the COO or the president. I know how to run my company. This was just a message that either I bow down and accept terms. I told him that this step alone would take our EBITDA down by few basis points, and it is not required. Same thing happened with respect to the legal head. So these conflicts were growing by the day. And somehow I was not convinced that those are the right things for the company. I can understand hiring a marketing head. I can understand hiring a product head or sales head and those kind of people in the US market. But I just could not understand an IT operations head being hired in the US, just as an example. And so these conflicts, one led to the other and accumulated over a period of time. And at some point of time, I said, I went to the US, had a FaceTime. I said, hey, I'm not able to take this and work in the new regime because of this, and we decided to part ways. I mean, decided in a way I was told, take it or leave it. And I decided to leave. No, but with respect to the perception that you shared that it was unceremonious, maybe it appeared that way. But I think the peers and in general, the employees of Aricent or whatever Flextronics organization, they were all extremely loving, caring, and expressing themselves to me. And I never felt that, I was walking away from a place without being recognized for what I have contributed.
Talking of loving and caring, Mao, I've got a surprise for you. I want to share my screen and play out a message for you. Should I go ahead?
Yeah, please.
Okay. And you'll recognize the person instantly when I play that. So there we go.
I've worked with a lot of people in my life, a lot of important people in my life. People who are extremely, famous now. But वो एक ऐसा इंसान था, ना बॉस वाला एटीट्यूड, ना बॉस वाला एयर, ऑलवेज अ टीम प्लेयर, ऑलवेज अ टीम प्लेयर. आपके लेवल पे उतर के वो कैसे आपसे कनेक्ट करता है, दैट इज समथिंग दैट वी ऑल हैव टू लर्न. So there were times when I really wanted to have this conversation with him, that how do you do it? How do you stay humane? How do you stay so balanced in the kind of chaos that you always in? And that man has always been in chaotic situations. When I started working with him, he was the COO of HSS. I mean, the most pathetic job that I've ever seen. He was always on the run. So, ek to wo hai. Secondly, the most amusing thing that I used to find is the first thing he used to do when he used to come to work, remove his shoes. We have never seen him wearing shoes in the office. Fan Barsat, that man is barefoot. Ek bari, there's something that has happened. All these people were working very late and he was not well. Mao was running fever. Mao घर से office आया था because अरुण कुमार ने बुलाया था उसको. अरुण कुमार was there and who was our CFO? विमल खन्ना. They were there क्योंकि ये सब बातें पता है प्रशांत. Those were all G15 classified information for us. We were not supposed to know what's happening. I don't know what has happened. There's some panga that has happened, a huge panga that has happened. I think something happened because I remember Pradman call also coming in the office शाम को. Something big happened. Pradman Call is walking into HSS का campus, so this मतलब कुछ हो गया है. It was also there. We were asked to wait. I, then Arun Kumar की जो EA थी वो, a couple of more people, we've been asked to wait. What if we need you? What if there's some documentation needed? But then we were asked to go home. It's all sorted, so we are okay. We are good. This was 2001, 2002. He and me, we have worked so closely and I was practically always there. I was never uncomfortable around him. Never. And मैं कितना लेट काम करती थी माओ के साथ. हमारे practically हमारा जो floor था plot 31 में, there were times वहाँ पे सिर्फ इक्का दुक्का लोग होते थे. मैं होती थी और माओ अपने कमरे में होता था. माओ का दरवाजा हमेशा खुला होता था. And his team primarily had women. I was there, Payal was there, a couple of more people were there. Primarily women, yaar. Anita Gupta was reporting to Mao. Payal Kaul was reporting to Mao. I was reporting to Mao. Mini में था. हम लोग तो सब मजाक करते थे माओ के साथ. मतलब we used to pull his leg. He's a CEO. He's our boss. हम खिंचाई कर रहे हैं माओ की and all. It was fun. He disliked alcohol. That I can tell you. He never liked alcohol. Food, though I've never seen him eating. वो cafeteria से मंगाता था खाना. And I remember Mao's wife was an amazing cook and she used to cook fish very nice. Another thing I know about Mao is his obsession with the number 5. He had this obsession with number 5. His everything was number 5. His phone number used to end with 555. His गाड़ी का number was 0555. He was obsessed with this number 5. I think ये शायद किसी को नहीं पता. He used to dislike alcohol, let me tell you. But whenever he was with us in an office party or an office dinner or something, you will find Mao with one glass of drink in his hand. और वो drink पूरी शाम खत्म ही नहीं हुआ. वो वैसे का वैसे ही पड़ा है उनके हाथ में. And Mao hates smoking also. I hold Mao in very high regard. यार Mao happened in my life when I really needed help. Financially when I needed help. So he trusted me with the work. He trusted me with the kind of the office that he holds. And I was a novice. मेरे पास ज़्यादा. I just spent 3 years in McKinsey and he trusted me. He took my interview and he was like, okay fine, start करते हैं, let's see what happens. वो ना काफी Mao is very old school, Mao is very Mao का काम करना. You have seen it, प्रशांत. I mean, we all have seen it. It is all. वो इंसान सर्दियों में एक पैंट और एक शर्ट पहन के ऊपर एक knitted, hand knitted half sleeve स्वेटर पहन के आता था. जब माओ साइड से चल के जाता था, ऐसे देख के लगता था किसी ऑफिस का अकाउंटेंट होगा, देख के लगता ही नहीं था कि ह्यूज सॉफ्टवेयर सिस्टम का सीईओ हो जा रहा है। मैं तो तरस ही गई थी माओ को सूट उसमें देखने के लिए। देन हमारे ऑफिस में शायद कोई फोटो शूट या कुछ हुआ था, दैट्स व्हेन ही वोर अ सूट। आई वाज लाइक वाओ, ही वोर अ सूट। एंड जैसे जैसे अरुण थे, अरुण वाज ऑलवेज very smartly dressed. There are two people in the office who were like, देख के लगता था accountants हैं, एक तो गौतम ब्रह्मा और एक माओ। वेरी सिंपल हम्बल मैन, बहुत सिंपल बंदा यार, अपने रूट्स नहीं छोड़े उसने। कितने क्यूटली अपने वाइफ से बात करता था फोन पे उड़िया में, इतना क्यूट लगता था ना सुनने में मुझे, इतना नॉट इंटरेस्टेड इन ग्रूमिंग मी, बट देन ही वॉज ग्रूमिंग मी, उस बेचारे को भी नहीं पता। He was preparing me for big league. He has always trusted my decisions. हमारे पास वो आते थे ट्रैवल के अप्रूवल्स आते थे। There came a time when Mao started trusting me with that. तू देख यार, अच्छा देख इसका क्या है, अच्छा वो देख, तू कर दे यार, तू देख ले यार, तू मेरे पास वही ला जो तेरे को ठीक लग रहा है। तो ये बहुत बड़ी बातें हैं मेरे लिए।
So there you go, Mao. What is the story about you walking barefoot in the office? Everybody wants to know about it.
Prashant, that's the comfort. I grew up in an environment where my mother would not let us, I'm talking about my childhood, would not let us wear a slipper into the kitchen, to the bedrooms. I think it's the other way. Slippers are only to be worn to washrooms and toilets. And so once you develop comfort, to be honest with you, if I were to wear socks and a shoe for a 10-hour day, my legs would start burning by the fifth hour. So I was very comfortable going barefoot. And the offices that we worked, either you have a carpet or you have a, cleanly mopped marble or granite surface. So it feels very nice to the feet.
And would you like to tell us or spill the beans around the story which Kriti was mentioning when you and Pradman and Arun met in the evening in emergency and you were having fever?
Yeah, that was around the slowdown time we had. And by the way, that particular evening, my respect for Pradman went up substantially higher. I think there was some earlier discussions where Adesh and Vinod and everybody was involved, and it was a follow-up meeting that was happening. We had made offer for 200 or 250 freshers. And there was a huge slowdown, and the entire industry was not honoring their commitments to campus freshers. And I was extremely reluctant because, in a way, we're spoiling the starting career of 200 bright engineers. Hughes was a, brand that was attracting the best of the universities or talents. And what to do, whether to go ahead and say no or defer it by a few months. And those are the discussions that was happening. Arun, Vimal, the financial impact of doing it or not doing it, all that. Pradman came up with this bright idea saying that we are starting a new line of business. We are not in the application space. And why don't you get 7, 8 senior guys pulled out from your existing operations, and let's start an application team and use these bright engineers to make things happen. It had its financial impact, but I think that helped HSS grow and get into the application domain significantly.
Right. Now, after Hughes and Flextronics, you have been working for a long time, and perhaps still at Bharti Telesoft, rebranded as Comviva. Now, when you resigned from Hughes, you could have joined any company in the world. Then why only Comviva?
I had possibly reached a point of saturation for working in services companies. The problem that services company have is their revenue is proportionate to headcount. Growing, training, recruiting, building culture, whatever else was becoming the mainstay of the organization. I'm not demeaning anything here. I'm just saying that. But, the very limited product initiative that we had done at Hughes had excited me quite a bit. And I had, obviously, by virtue of getting into business, had then benchmarked and understood that products business are not headcount business, and they can be non-linear growth, significant growth, and it's more exciting. And I was also somewhere feeling that India had done very well in in services. The TCSs, the Infosys, the Wipros, and all that. And Hughes in its own standing from product engineering space. But there were not many companies who were doing products out of India. If there were any, it's like the back end of multinationals like Motorola doing some products, Intel doing some products, Cisco doing some products, but they are not same as made in India in that sense. And I was thinking of doing something, but I knew that not many opportunities existed. When I resigned, trust me, within first 3 days, I had 4 offers, unsolicited, coming from all kind of places saying, another one who was in the league of HSS from Bangalore said that, hey, I'm sick and tired of being the CEO and chairman. You come and be the CEO. Let me run the company as chairman. And I said, no, let me think about it. And I told everybody that I need 90 days to make my mind up in terms of what I want to do. And if you want to make an offer, you're most welcome, but I'll not open it. I'll open it on the 89th day and decide. And I almost did that. Maybe on the 80th day, I opened. But I had tilted myself quite heavily towards doing something in the product initiative. And that's the time this Bharti Telesoft opportunity came. It was very funny again. I got a call from a gentleman called Rajiv Vasudeva, who was Egon Zander's country head at that point of time. He went on to be the Egon Zander global head at some point of time. He's not with Egon anymore. He said, Mao, kya kar rahe ho? Can we have coffee? I said, मैं coffee नहीं पीता. कहते यार नींबू पानी पिला देंगे आज. I said, मैं कहाँ आऊँगा यार, मैं busy हूँ. So we met. He started talking to me as if Prashant talking to me right now. And I didn't understand why is Rajiv talking to me like this and giving me 45 minutes. He's a big guy. Next day, his secretary sent me a CV saying, this is what Rajiv had prepared for you. Can you just quickly, because they knew if they asked me to prepare a CV, I'll take 15 days. I looked at it, I said, yeah, looks okay, but what is he doing? He has to tell me. And then I got a call from Bharti Group and, first one of their directors, and then their head of HR, a guy called Mr. Walia. Multiple people called, I spoke to them. And I kept saying that I have not made up my mind. I'm not made up my mind. And then they said, okay, you meet Mr. Sunil Mittal once. And that was a very brief 5-10 minutes meeting. He said that, hey, I have this company that I started. I want it to be different from what Naran Murthy does, what Azim Premji does. We want to do products. And but it's not going anywhere. I'm on a verge to decide whether to shut it down or take it forward. Can you give it 1 year short? And based on your recommendation, I will either pump more money or exit. So when I said it's okay if it is a short-term commitment, 1 year, and I'm confused about products versus services, this gives me an opportunity to dirty my hand into the product space. But I started from scratch effectively. Products were being built for service providers. I had no prior working experience of service providers. It was 600-700 people, some 10 million revenue. And then it needed more cleanup than anything else at that point of time. But everything else is history. Today, I'm at a south of 200 million revenue, 20% EBITDA. But Prashant, you'll be surprised that when I joined finally that organization, it was 1,100 employees doing 12 million or so revenue. At 200 million revenue, the employee base is today less than 2,500, maybe 2,400. So the employee base has gone up 2.5 times. The revenue has gone up 20 times. And that's the beauty of a product company. You don't, but I think the other thing that I'll tell my friends who are going to listen to this, that staying relevant is the mantra to success. We are in a world where things are changing dynamically, changing every day. When I came, I knew nothing about telecom service providers, and the primary business of Bharti Telesoft was streaming audio video. And I knew nothing on content business. Then I realized that most of these are coming to either they're too small a TAM, the total addressable market, or the CAGR is small, the growth rate is small, or they're dying. So since then, I've transformed the organization and changed by taking risk with able support from the board in getting into businesses which are in MarTech, marketing automation technologies. And the biggest that Comviva has established itself today in the market is fintech and digital payments. And these are big successes. To give an example, our flagship product line of fintech called Mobiquity, we have 70 customers globally and 150 million digital wallets powered by Mobiquity.
So if you compare between Hughes and Comviva, how was the experience different between the two? Of course, you mentioned the product side of the things, but nevertheless, was there a culture shock for you when you started working at Comviva?
Oh, majorly. But I had a free hand assured by Mr. Mittal for the first 4 or 5 years. I was reporting to him, and I can tell you today that the biggest challenge a CEO has and should have as his number one priority is driving the culture of the organization. A, a culture takes time, but if you build it right, it can give you multiplier effect on your business. And I must
Right.
give a lot of it to Adesh because that's what I learned from him. At that point of time, maybe I was poo-pooing a little bit of those HR GANs coming from him. But, transparency, respect for every individual, lead by example, uh, they play, there are a few others, they play a major role in culture building.
So that brings me to my next question as well. What would your advice be to the folks in the industry who are at senior leadership, uh, such that so that it can help them to take the leap into the next orbit where everybody wants to be, the coveted CXO zone? Because you you transitioned between those orbits, didn't you?
Maybe a little bit of being at the right place at the right time that happened for me, but I will take it, with both hands saying that yeah, I contributed to that path. But coming back to what would be my suggestions, I think I said during the course of this interaction that number one is never stop learning. Whether it is on people access, whether it is on market access, or it is on tech access, please continue to learn. The day you stop learning, you're gone. Because industry is moved to a point where industry is reluctant to recruit people who are beyond 45. And unless you are SME, subject matter expert and all that. The second part is take risk, appropriate risk, I would say. And never stay within your comfort zone because it doesn't last too long. Before you realize the rug would be pulled under your feet. And third, which is by far the most important, is in quality processes, we learn something called continuous measurable improvement, CMI. Please ask yourself almost daily, if not hourly, what are you improving on? There is no room for stagnancy in this world anymore.
Yeah, excellent words of wisdom for those who aspire to be in the CXO zone. Uh, but what are your thoughts about the gender equality in the IT workforce of India? Do you think women still face a glass ceiling? You have reached CXO level in your career. How was your own relationship with women? We heard Kriti talking about you while you were working with them. And what would your advice be to the managers and leaders to bring out the best in the women in the IT workforce?
I I personally think, I've never differentiated between men and women when it comes to workforce. I mean, to me, they're equal, but I've found women to be a little more sincere. My own ESAT surveys and other engagement surveys that we have had in last 5, 7 years here, 2 or 3 things that come. People who are committed to the well-being of the organization, women are disproportionately higher than men as a percentage. But you still have that pushback from managers saying, oh, this job requires frequent travel. I can't take somebody who's may or may not be able to travel frequently. Oh no, this person is, just married or whatever it is, will get into a family way for a couple of years, would slow down and it'll impact. So I think those barriers have to be broken. In terms of the IT industry, I think you'll find between 20 to 35, 40% is the gender diversity today. But there is a wave at board level and at senior management level to induct more and more women employees. I hear a lot in the industry today that people are opening positions which are reserved for females. So it's kind of forcing the organization to get to better gender diversity ratios. So I'm encouraged to see the trend, the move, and I hope industry, if not 50, will get to a 40% level soon. As an average, I'm talking about. There are organizations who are doing much better than that.
Excellent. You've seen the industry from the decade of the 80s and now for nearly 40 years. Looking into your crystal ball, what are your predictions about what's going to happen in the tech space in the next 10 to 20 years, maybe?
So it's been happening. It's just that the pace of, or rate of change rather, is accelerating at a much rapid pace. What happened in 10 years and 80s is happening in possibly 3 years now, and it will only become faster. There's a massive wave about AI right now. We've been using AI and ML and machine learning and all that and MarTech for about 6, 7 years now. We've seen the benefit of using those technologies. The fear that it will take the job away is not going to be there. Now, all of us have seen it when, if you go really back into the history, when automation came, industrial automation, people thought there'll be job loss in manufacturing. Manufacturing job is growing constantly. So people have to be reskilled and their life and quality of life would improve with technology coming in. They would do something different. So I don't think I'm concerned about that aspect of what you hear in the market, but the 3 mantras that I gave you, one of them was learnability, learning about people. The way I understood employees before Corona and the current day employees, sometimes my HR tells me कि सर आपको पता नहीं है, ये लोग ऐसे सोचते नहीं है. So I think that learnability is extremely important, and the rate at which you have to learn has to accelerate constantly, and that will happen. So you'll find AI will happen, and then AR, VR is going to possibly play a significant role. But everything, if you see in last 10 years moving towards end of the day, it is customer experience, which is seemingly driving everything. You want to make it easy for the customer. You want to make it convenient for the customer. You want to make it attractive or appealing to the customer. And so whether it is application of AI, application of AR, VR, application of machine learning, application of whatever other technologies that are emerging or will emerge in future, which you and me don't know right now, will only help in improving customer experience.
Okay, I recall in one of the interviews at HSS, you had mentioned that geopolitics is something that interests you, and that was a surprise for me. I still remember that somehow. Are you still following geopolitics? Would you love to give us your perspective on the geopolitics of today?
So I don't follow geopolitics as a bureaucrat would follow, because that's not my job. I follow geopolitics vis-a-vis its impact on business. Now, when I do business in Africa, to give an example, and we do a huge amount of business in Africa, Africa respects something made in India. So the acceptability of Indian solutions in African market is high. We did not have the same success in spite of being there for about 10 years now in Latin America, Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Peru, Uruguay, and all that. And there, the people in those countries don't see made in India, and I'm talking about products, to be appealing. I have had situations where the procurement VP of a company telling me that if I make a choice of a product that's made in UK or in US, even if it doesn't work, nobody will finger point at me saying, why did you select a vendor like this? But if I buy something from India, if it works 9 out of 10, fine. But the time that it doesn't work, people tell me, who asked you to buy a product from India? So in that context, I follow geopolitics. There is Eastern Europe has one kind of situation. And within those countries, like I had my Latin American headquarters in Colombia and Buenos Aires, Argentina. I did not know that there is rivalry between Argentina and Chile, much more than between India and Pakistan. So when I appointed a customer success delivery manager who is an Argentinian for a customer in Chile, the CEO of the customer organization in Chile called me to say that please move him, get somebody else, but we can't accept an Argentinian to manage our account. And that was a failure. I should have known it much before. So when I say, geopolitical situation interests me, I want to see the impact of Russia and Ukraine on my business and what can impact. And it has. Like I used to depend on a lot of outsourcing partners in Eastern Europe. And that war has impacted, that channel. So those are the kind of things that I love to study and track.
Excellent. That's a perspective which I'm sure our viewers would love and would want to implement it. But, please tell us something about you personally, something about your family members, your hobbies, who gave you the name Mao, and what makes you in general happy and content these days.
Happily married, have one son. My wife is a little bit on the NGO space, not working in any professional organization. My son has done his undergrad from the US and currently pursuing after a couple of years of work experience, his MBA. And let me take that a question out before I answer the third one. When I went to BITS Pilani, I was allotted a hostel. You would know that process. So I was allotted a hostel. I reached late in the evening. It was almost night time. So I didn't realize which room. I just opened, put a bulb there. You are asked to typically carry a bulb, a lock and key and all that. And somehow cleaned the bed and or the whatever had slept. Morning, I got up, I saw that my door, somebody has painted power flows from a barrel of a gun. This was exactly what was printed. Now, what I'm called at home or my school friends is Manoranjan Mohapatra, and I'm called Manu. But there, people obviously were struggling to Manoranjan Mohapatra, such a long name, and BITS had, I think, more than 50% from South, Tamil Nadu and Kerala and Andhra Pradesh and all that. They were even particularly having bigger struggle finding out my name. So then they said, oh, that green door with Mao saying on it and Mao Zedong saying on it and all that. And that's how. There's one guy who's primarily responsible for propagating that, is a guy called Prashant Sagar Rao, who went on to become the general secretary of the Students' Union, is in US. And that latched on. And then when I got out of the campus and got into the corporate world, I thought, here is my opportunity to drop Mao and get back to my Manu or something. So when I joined CDOT, on date of joining, I go in, I was told to report to the HR team. I go into a room for my joining formalities and I find others sitting there saying, "Wait, Mao, tu kya kar raha hai idhar?" I said, there goes my any hope of dropping Mao's name. And that is how it latched on. And it latched on very well. Now I'm beginning to like it. The last one you said, what do I do? How do I spend my time and all that? I still actively work. I'm right now in office. I start my day early, 7:30. I get out at 5:30 max. I take a break for about 3-4 hours, including my personal time, my family time, and all that. And then if I have to get into calls or catch up with mails or documents or reviews, I do that past 9:30 till about 11:30, 12. I normally sleep by 11:30, 12 and get up at 6. So 6 hours is good for me, been good for me all these days. And I have very close BITS friends of mine, about 7, 8 of us. And we have a group that we have formally named, and we have it in WhatsApp group too, called Coffee Club, coffee_club. We meet every week. And that 2 hours of, as if you were to use the slang and BITS Pilani terms, lacha, grounds you, takes any frustration, anything building in your mind out, and you reset yourself for the next week. So if you go to either a Chayo's on Golf Course Road or a Third Wave Cafe or a Starbucks, either of the three, there's a high probability you'll bump into us.
It's been a privilege talking to you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been talking to the cellular genius of the country and a mentor to countless of the IT workforce of India, Manoranjan Mohapatra, whom we lovingly called Mao.
Thanks, Prashant. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And to the audiences, I might have been cryptic at times. I might have not followed my thought process as I spoke because something else overtook. So if you have any questions, any follow-up actions, either you can approach me directly or through Prashant.
Thank you, Mao.
Thanks, Prashant. Great talking to you.